What's up guys? Today we're going to be checking out No Time to Die on 4K Blu-ray. This isn't a video on how good or bad the story is, I'll just be sharing some of my thoughts on the audio and the video quality. Now let's go over a few tech specs. The movie was shot in 35, 65mm and IMAX. It's got a 4K DI. It's rated PG-13. Runtime is 163 minutes and the aspect ratio is 239:1. So there are black letterbox bars with 0 switching IMAX shots. No Time to Die was shot on film, so you can expect a fair amount of film grain. I felt it was a light to medium layer and a solid improvement over the digital stream. The grain structure was finely textured and consistent without the slightly added softness I saw on the digital. If you're a grain hater, I don't think you're going to be bothered too much by the grain. Now, even though this movie doesn't have the expanded IMAX shots, I found it pretty easy to tell the 9 IMAX footage between the IMAX ones. The film grain was less noticeable and details were cleaner and sharper with some very fine nuance and textures. I also found the framing of the IMAX scenes didn't make me wonder how much of a difference the movie would have been if they included the full frame. So it's not like in Dune where certain shots you could tell needed that extra vertical space. The color palette has a varied mixture of cool nighttime tones with very warm daytime tones, but overall it's very natural, and the HDR does make this an overall bright transfer. Specular highlights glisten from the sunlight and lens flares, and has some excellent sparkle, and the explosions will have you grabbing your sunglasses. Black levels added excellent contrast to the already bright transfer, giving this movie additional depth and separation. Overall, it's one of the best looking Bond films out there, if not the best. If you're new to the channel and you're into new movies and audio and video gear and want to see more videos like this, be sure to tap the subscribe button for new weekly videos. And the audio is in Dolby Atmos, which sounded exactly the same as it did when I heard it at my local theater. That's a good thing, except there wasn't too much overhead activity except for a handful of scenes. There's the explosions around the 13-minute mark that's got this in-your-head swirling effect that circles around the top speakers, and there's a chopper flyover that moves from top left to top right at about an hour 50 in when Bond is out in the woods. Probably the best sounding Atmos effect comes in at 49 minutes. In this scene, there's a couple of parts where you hear Bond and Paloma's voice coming through in the top channels. It's supposed to give you that in-your-head feel, sort of like you got headphones on, or in this case an earpiece, and it sounded just as loud as I heard it at the theater. Which is to say, I felt the volume seemed unnaturally loud. It's cool, but it's just a little too loud. And that's it for the real discrete dynamic moving effects. There's some decent musical extension towards the end of the movie, and some decent underwater immersion in this particular scene with Bond and Felix. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it. If I had to give it a number, I'd say about 96% of the movie was more of a static-based mix rather than a dynamic mix, so it played more like a 7-channel mix. Even during the big car shootout, there's nothing happening up top, and this was the case for most of the big action parts. As for bass response, it was kind of on the lighter side, but it was also light at my theater. It's still better than the digital stream, but overall, I'd have to say it's light. Dialogue was always easy to hear without any issues, and the best part of the mix would be the musical score. It's got a huge cinematic scale with a large upfront soundstage. So for video quality, I'd have to give it a 9.3. If you're coming from the digital stream, this has got a tighter, cleaner, and at times 4K crispy image. It's a bright transfer, has that big cinematic feel, and will look amazing on your 4K display. For audio, I'm going to go with an 8.1. This is more transparent sounding than the digital stream. If this was a straight 7-channel mix, then it'd be a standout. But since it's an Atmos mix, I'm going to have to knock it a few points since the immersion factor was lacking. There wasn't much overhead activity in the biggest action parts, and the bass response could use a little bit more impact. It's still a really good sounding mix, and like I said earlier, the best part would have to be the musical score. I think if you haven't seen the movie yet and you're a Bond fan, then the movie is definitely worth a watch, and is probably one of the best looking 4Ks to come out this year. So what are your thoughts on No Time to Die on 4K Blu-ray? Have you seen it, and where would you rank this amongst all of the Craig Bond movies? Leave a comment and let us know. As always guys, thanks for watching. If you want, you can follow us on social media, and if you want to support the channel and get exclusive content or great discounts on audio and video gear, then stop by our Patreon page. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again in the next video.